In Generation 9, Sun teams are currently the best weather to use in competitive singles Pokemon. Find a Torkoal with Drought and pair it with some of the strongest Pokemon in the game and it's very difficult to go wrong. It also helps that many of the other weathers are missing their best Pokemon. All this combined means that Sun is the best it's been in a long time. Let's take a look. But before we continue though, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It's free and lets me know to keep making more of this type of content. Sun teams have traditionally focused on two ways of attacking. One is Chlorophyll Pokemon. Powerful grass types can get a double speed boost in the sun and start attacking. These Pokemon can also use moves like Weather Ball to beat Steel type Pokemon who would ordinarily match up well versus grass type Pokemon. Additionally, these grass type Pokemon often have Growth, a move that can double their attack and special attack. The best example of this is Venusaur, who has been a staple on Sun teams for generations. Venusaur is well balanced with Growth, Solar Beam, Sludge Bomb, Weather Ball, and even Earth Power, and is a staple on every single Sun team because there's never a bad situation for it. Being bulky with good coverage is never a liability. Second is powerful Fire-type Pokemon. Sun naturally boosts Fire-type attacks and weakens Water-type attacks, so it makes sense to use Fire-type Pokemon. If you stack enough power on one attack, you can break through anything. The best example of this is previous generation Charizard with Solar Power. A Fire-type attack plus Choice Specs plus a Fire boost from Drought plus Solar Power means even Water-type Pokemon lose to Charizard. Unlike Venusaur though, Charizard can be a liability because of its Stealth Rock weakness, so while it's a great option, it doesn't fit on every single team. In Generation 9, unfortunately, there is no Venusaur, the former king of Sun. You'll have to make do with replacements like Scovillain or other returning Pokemon like Swords Dance Leafeon. Scovillain's a pretty unique sweeper in that it's also a fire type to benefit from Sun. It doesn't have the defenses of Venusaur, but it's a very potent attacker with Growth and that stab combination. Because it doesn't have as much bulk, it's a little harder to play, but overall still decent. Also, Sun teams don't actually use Charizard in Generation 9. The reason is because Chi-Yu is actually a better Sun abuser overall. Because of Chi-Yu's much higher special attack and ability, Chi-Yu actually has similar damage output to Charizard in the Sun anyway. Chi-Yu is basically Charizard but without any of the negatives. It retains its power even outside of Sun because it's not dependent on Solar Power and it's not as weak to Stealth Rock too. Chi-Yu fills the role of a powerful fire type to take advantage of Sun, and similar to Venusaur of earlier generations, there's no real reason not to use it. Chi-Yu is always going to be consistently good with that much raw power and a lesser defensive liability. With the loss of Venusaur and the addition of Chi-Yu and Scovillain, I would say Sun got better, but the reason it's the best now is because of two more reasons. The first one is pretty obvious, but it's the addition of Paradox Pokemon. The ancient Paradox Pokemon with their abilities get boosted in the Sun. This completely changes the paradigm of what Sun can do. Previously, Sun was all-out attack with Fire and Grass type Pokemon. Those are the only two ways to take advantage of Sun. With Paradox Pokemon, there are a ton of new options and a lot of new type diversity. Great Tusk is already one of the best Pokemon in the tier and can use Sun to do whatever it wants. It can be a Stealth Rocker or a Bulk Up user or a Rapid Spinner. Similarly, Roaring Moon can take over a game with Dragon Dance, Choice Scarf, or Choice Band. Before Flutter Mane got banned, it was an excellent option too. Even Slitherwing can take advantage of Sun and try and become a Bulk Up user or a Choice Banded First Impression user. The other Photosynthesis Pokemon aren't as great overall, but the sheer possibilities of using all these unique, high base stat Pokemon opens up a ton of options that Sun teams never had before. It's game-changing for that entire team structure. But the final reason, and arguably the most important reason, is that other weathers aren't good. The viability of other weathers is a big impact on your own weather. If other weather strategies are independently good, then it becomes more difficult to use your own weather because now you have to account for the weather war. In particular, Sun has a big issue with this because a drought user like Torkoal would be weak to Drizzle Pelipper and Sandstream Tyranitar. It's more difficult to switch Torkoal in to reset weather versus Pokemon that it has a type disadvantage versus. It's also a little more problematic because Drought Torkoal is weak to Stealth Rock and doesn't have a move like Roost. It can't keep switching in back and forth to change the weather again and again. It'll eventually run out of HP. Fortunately for Sun, in Generation 9, other weathers are independently bad, or at least not as good as they once were. Sand got a heavy nerf because it currently doesn't have any good Sand Rush Pokemon. Excadrill has always been the king of sand, and without it, it's tough to justify using it. Lycanroc is not a good enough Pokemon to dedicate using a Sand Team for. Independently, Tyranitar is a B-rated Pokemon. It has some interesting ideas with Dragon Dance and then using Terrestrialization to escape its fighting type weakness, but overall it struggles in a tier run by Great Tusk. Hail got a big nerf because it doesn't have Arctozolt and Ninetales Alola anymore. Slush Rush Arctozolt is what made Hail extremely deadly. The type combination of Electric and Ice, especially with Bolt Beak, made Arctozolt the best Hail sweeper ever. You needed to use ground types to stop the sheer power of Bolt Beak, but then you risked dying to Blizzard. The best ground types like Garchomp and Landorus T had major issues versus Arctozolt. In Generation 9, the best Slush Rush Pokemon is the Titan, and while it's alright, it's no Arctozolt. Hail teams are also good because of Aurora Veil, which is one of the best moves in the game. Unfortunately, without Ninetales Alola, only Abomasnow has Snow Warning and Aurora Veil. Abomasnow is considerably worse off than Ninetales because of its low speed stat and weaknesses. It's tough to get Aurora Veil off when you have to worry about dying in one hit before you can use your move. Ninetales Alola had the utility of being able to outspeed a lot of Pokemon and therefore at least getting the Veil off before fainting. Abomasnow isn't unusable and it is bulky enough to live hits, but it's more challenging to execute than Ninetales Alola ever was. Instead, people normally use Prankster Grimmsnarl with Reflect and Light Screen instead of using Aurora Veil Abomasnow. Reflect and Light Screen has the obvious disadvantage of it taking 2 turns instead of 1, but it comes with a lot of advantages that make it worth it. With Prankster, you can at least guarantee to get one of the layers up. Abomasnow can't make that guarantee. Grimmsnarl also has a better typing overall, so it's more reliable to use throughout a game, especially when Stealth Rock is up. Finally, it even has Parting Shot to let the next Pokemon come in too. Oftentimes a challenge for Veil teams is to find a way to get a setup sweeper in the game in the first place. Grimmsnarl helps solve that issue. Finally, there's Rain, which to be honest is not terrible, but it's not as good as it once was. Rain is the second best weather because of Terra Water type Pokemon. Floatzel with Wave Crash and Terra Water can one-hit KO a lot of Pokemon in the rain. Even Barrascuda returns as a powerful rain option. Still though, Rain is missing a lot of the previous top Pokemon like Seismitoad, Kingdra, and Hurricane Thunder Zapdos. Rain is alright, but definitely not as good as it once was in Generation 8 or even Generation 7 when it had Mega Swampert. All these reasons combine to make Sun the best weather right now. The addition of Chi-Yu, the addition of Paradox Pokemon, and the simple fact that other weathers got worse makes Sun a terrifying team structure. I've linked my favorite Sun team down in the description below. It's a team built with 2 Paradox Pokemon, Choice Specs Chi-Yu, and a Terra Fairy Ceruledge. Terra Fairy Ceruledge is a surprise factor that can give you an edge while also using Flash Fire to defend against opposing Fire-type Pokemon. That's it for now and thank you for watching.